I'm going to give it a beat here while the attendees trickle in.
Trickle, trickle, trickle.
Good morning, everyone who's joining us. I'm just giving a moment for everybody to join correctly. The counter is going up. Okay. Looks like we have everyone thus far. Great. So welcome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Clay Pruitt. I am the ShortFest forum producer. I am so thrilled that we are able to put on the forum this year, even in the circumstances. And to kick things off with such a powerhouse of a panel, I'm absolutely thrilled and very excited for this to be underway. Before I get started, on behalf of the festival, we want to acknowledge the pain and anger that we're all feeling right now, not just because of the recent events that we've witnessed, but also about the long-standing history of injustice and inequality. We stand with Black Lives Matter, and we are committed to working together to move our community, our country, and the world closer to unity, understanding, and inclusivity. A few housekeeping items. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen if you're going to ask a question. We'll get to those at the end. Please do not put questions in the chat. Closed captions in English are available for this session, so you can turn those on at the bottom of your screen. I'll also share a link for another viewing platform for you to see the closed captions. This session is being recorded for future use. And now I'd like to introduce this incredible panel. I'm gonna end with you, Jacqueline, but I'm gonna start with the wonderful Leslie Wasserman of Leslie Wasserman Casting, beautiful, amazing casting director. Craig Johnson, wonderful director of The Skeleton Twins and so many other incredible, beautiful works in film and television. Melora Walters, incredible actress. Coleman Domingo, incredible actor. Kyle Patrick Alvarez, another amazing, wonderful director, just wrapped the second season of Homecoming, which is very exciting. Beautiful, amazing actress, Sarah Steele, and Diana Brigidi of Fifth House Casting, there we go. And to kick everything off, I am going to now turn it over to the wonderful moderator for today's session, Jacqueline Coley from Rotten Tomatoes. You're muted.
Oh, there we go. I'm like, the host has to unmute me. I'm like, I did. Hi, everyone. First of all, I'm so excited to moderate this panel. When they asked me to do it, I was like, of course, because everyone on this panel is incredible. And I can't wait to talk about all of your work and the various points in which all of you either as actors or work with actors. But since we're mostly talking about working with actors, I'm going to start with them because the main audience I know for this is a lot of shorts directors or early in their career directors. And so I'll start with you, Coleman, but I want to go to all the actors. What is something that you wished that first-time directors knew before they stepped on set first day as an actor?
You know, it's funny, I've done a series of shorts, and I think that I always invite my directors to have a little understanding of an actor's process. I think it's important for every director. I just do. I think that some of the best directors have been actors, or at least have an understanding, some fundamentals to know how to get a performance out, to know what an actor needs, it also helps with prep. And also just to understand the actor's function as well, I think. And I think that I like, because I'm an actor, director, and a writer, and I think each thing that I've learned helps me navigate the other's job in a way. I know as an actor, as being a director, I know how to help facilitate, the way we work as actors. I know all the things that are in play, from my side. I'm like, okay, I know the kind of time constraints we have, what needs to be done, how we need to make our day, how I can even help even as an actor with blocking, knowing that, I might not want to go for 4 marks when I know we don't have a lot of time or budget with the short. So let's see how we can tell the story by just doing 2 marks. And I think it's on the other end as well. And I think that's why I invite my directors to just have some basic facility as an actor. Maybe take an improv class, maybe take a non-camera class, but I think it's just useful. I think it's just useful so you understand what you're going to ask for from your actors and how to respect that space.
I love that. Sarah, we'll go to you first. If you want to answer this one on maybe working with a first-time director, what you want them to know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, the most confident film directors that I've worked with were really flexible. Like they sort of would come to me and say things like, if any of this doesn't feel natural to you, like tell me something that would feel more natural to say than what I've written here. And I think, it's interesting because I do a lot of theater too. And obviously, like for theater, you have to be very, you have to really, like, you have to treat the script like it's like your Bible. You can't, you can't change even a little or but for film, I really have found, like, if you just need to make it more spontaneous, like, it's better for everyone if the director is the director and writer are sort of flexible with that.
All right, Laura, what about you? As also a director too, so you got like several of you have many hats, but.
I agree with what everybody has said. I normally, as an actress, say to the director, I'm here to bring this character you created to life. So tell me what you want. I'm here for you. Like, in the end, like, I, as an actress, feel that I have to take the role of, I have to become the person. But I also understand, as a director, you're seeing a whole story. So I acquiesce to that. But as a director, and knowing what it's like to be an actor, I feel that directors should know that you've got to, most actors who end up getting a role or they're on set are trained, or they've worked. So you're dealing with these beautiful, I feel like, racehorses. Let them run.
Yep.
Let them run and enjoy the run, go for it, and don't limit, because often on both sides, the mistakes are where magic happens. So run.
Yeah.
And smaller roles. We've all played very small roles. I call it authentic background. But they say there's no such thing as a small role. Well, there is and there isn't, but every person is a person. Every actor is an actor. Every character has a story. Theoretically, you could take a script and make a story about any actor on that set. So let them live. Just let everybody live.
I love that. Ease off the bridle. Also, I'm definitely going to take that, was it authentic background? Steal that so quickly. Next, I'm going to go to our casting directors, because I feel like everyone's always asking, how do I get the job? How do I get the job? How do I get the job? Like, I feel like that's everybody asking all that. But I think maybe on this side, again, given this audience, casting specifically for low budget indie films they might not employ you ladies to be able to help them with that. They may have to do it on their own. So what do you have for folks that are trying to cast on their own? And granted, we know they want to use you, but like what tricks would you say to a director to say how you look at a character with new eyes? Because I think that's the beauty of what casting directors do, is they can see the potential in an actor that sometimes directors and producers, because they're so close to the work, cannot see. So Leslie, you want to start?
Yeah, I would say for low budget shorts and web series and the things that really you don't have the resources for, it's a combination. I think that on the one hand, for first time directors, it's worthwhile to try, like, let's say you're going through an Actors Access breakdown because that's your only way to find actors. I would try the people you think are perfect for that role visually or based off of their work. And then I would also try people that seemingly would not fit it at all. Because I find often with first-time directors, they do have a very set idea of what they were imagining. And I do my best to bring in other people to give them another sense of how it could go, or how they can fill that world with those characters that may also complement that person. So I think, like, give everybody a shot to really feel it out. And I also think when you're on a super low budget, like, start asking favors. Like, that's really where you're getting your cast. Like, if you can't hire a casting director, it's favors, but like, treat everybody with such grace and respect and generosity, and that favor will be worth it.
Yeah, there's a lot of friends that are in first time films, let's be honest. Deanna?
Yeah, I think with following up on what Leslie said, I think there's a lot of merit to favors and friends, actors that you know that you think are really good, but you know, and you wish you had like a name actor, but like, go with your friends. I think, like, you know, when I watched I guess High Maintenance was short before it turned into a show. And I mean, I watched that as a casting director for inspiration to find actors, because whatever Ben Sinclair is doing is using his friends that are excellent. They're new faces. We don't need to see the same old faces. So I do agree with Leslie there. But to also add on to that, I feel like, you know, when you're directing a short for the first time, I think it's a really good idea to practice being collaborative, because I think, like, in order to see a character in a new way, you have to be open-minded and listen to your producers, listen to the people around you, take their opinion. It doesn't need to be, you know, you just follow what everyone says, but I think it's such a collaborative process, and everyone likes to feel like they're an important part of that process. And I think that someone could say something really interesting that, you know, opens your eyes to something that you didn't see before in an actor. I think the collaborative part of that is a really important aspect.
I love that.
I like to piggyback on this real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I like to piggyback on that because I think that I always want to make sure that other that short filmmakers also feel the confidence to shoot for the stars and actually, like, go for your first choice and don't be afraid of it. I know that I did a short called Nothing Man a couple of years ago, and these guys wrote this role for me. And if, you know, because a lot of times people, I always tell people, don't take me out of the game. Don't take me out of the game because, you know, I'm on TV and I'm doing these films and all. It's like, you know what? I will do a good project, especially if I can, you know, the blessings I can afford to do something that's like a low budget, what was it, $100 a day or something, and I shot for like 7 days. But it was something I was really passionate about the subject matter, that what they were doing with it, and I wanted to actually be a part of some new filmmakers, a part of their dream as well. I wanted to help support that. So I always want to tell filmmakers, don't take me out of the game. Don't take out your number one. You never know if they'll hold space for you and what's important to them. So that's what I'd like to say, that to, like, just go for it. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And looking at all the actors' filmography on here, all of you I've seen go from huge things to doing very small films to doing quiet stuff.
Actors want to do good. We want to do good work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Which is why we keep watching. Kyle, I'm going to kick it over to you because I think everyone has aspirations for what type of director they want to be, but I think a lot of people hopefully dream to do what you just did with Homecoming, you know, long form television, telling a story over an entire season, directing multiple episodes of that, but it's also really daunting. And I just wonder, for those folks that are maybe ready to take that next level, what is maybe the biggest leap from going from maybe small, lower budget into something more studio based, more long form television? And what skills do you think people should hone now if they're wanting to make that leap later?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, at least from my experience, is to know that it's always the same. And I mean that in a positive way and also in a bit of an overwhelming way. So whatever experience you're having with your short right now, even if you have a big budget TV show, you're still racing the clock. You're still hoping the sun somehow sets slower that day. You're still trying to get as much time as you can with your cast in front of the lens, right? You know, it's all those struggles have been the same. And that's been proven to me time and time again, from doing shorts to then doing indie features and then, you know, like a whole season of TV. It never ceases to amaze me that just because the budgets get bigger, whatever, the challenges are the same. Now there's nuances to that, of course, different nuances to the kind of cast you're working with or how you adapt to that, or what it means to be on a bigger budget set, or like a show like Homecoming that is very, you know, aggressive in terms of its aesthetics. I'm curious if, you know, like Coleman on Euphoria had some of the same experiences where you're still trying to get as much time for the actors in front of the camera, but there's this also, you have a crane and all these other, so there's new complications, but at the same time, the battles are still the same. So I say that to just say, have confidence in yourself and your experience, but also have the humility to listen to the people who have done the bigger things that you might not have as well.
Oh yeah, humility is like, I think, day one on everything with this, or the process will humble you.
Yes,
the
it
process will humble you.
will.
Craig, I'm gonna kick it over to you because you've done a lot of work in the indie space, and I think with that you're dealing with a big mix of, you know, established actors and new actors. But I saw a quote from Bill Hader when he was working on your film, because it was one of the first things he kind of did like that, and it was definitely a stretch for him. And I remember him saying that he was having trouble with the idea of playing that character authentically, and he didn't know if he was being too over the top. And he basically was talking to you about like how to honor the character. And I just want to know, what advice do you have for helping some actors push past their comfort zone? Because that happens with established actors and with new actors, and sometimes as a director you kind of have to make that guidance.
Yeah, that's, you know, well, I'll speak specifically to Bill Hader's character in The Skeleton Twins. You know, one of his concerns was at the time, you know, Bill was really only known for Saturday Night Live. He'd done some smaller roles in kind of big comedies. And actually his most popular character at the time was this character Stefan, who most of us know, who was this over-the-top gay club guy. The character he was playing in Skeleton Twins was also gay. And I think one of his concerns was that Bill, who is not gay in real life, that he would portray this character authentically, that it would be separated from Stefan. And actually the conversation didn't last long, because all we said is like, the fact that this person is gay is only one small element of who they are as an entire three-dimensional person. And the character of Milo in the Skeleton Twins is on a different planet than Stefan. Like, they wouldn't talk to each other at a bar. Like, they're so different. And so what was more interesting to me about the character of Milo was that he was feeling like a failure in his life, that he was very smart and funny, but also really struggling with depression. And that would inform kind of how he physically moves and how he kind of holds himself. And I'm saying this as if I came up with it, but this was Bill was coming up with this, and we were just having a conversation about it. And so that process, it was very, very organic. And then, you know, even though Bill kind of was nervous until day one, I remember I have to say, and I wasn't sure either. Like, you know, we didn't do rehearsals. I didn't have him read even before casting him. He was cast based off us meeting up and having a beer, honestly. And then that's a big thing about casting. So much of it is just intuitive. So I didn't hear him say any of the lines until we shot our first shot. And I didn't know what his voice would sound like. And so it was a little bit of a roll of the dice, but it was just, I mean, after his first couple takes, I just breathed a sigh of relief. And I made sure to go up to Bill and I was like, that's him. That's exactly right. We don't need to do any more than what you just did. And I think he felt a sense of relief and relaxation, and we just moved forward. So this goes to what Coleman was saying about having a quick dialogue with your actors beforehand. Make sure you're on the same page, make sure there is a back and forth going. So that because you are creating this character together.
Excellent. And I kicked it off by sort of asking the actors what they wish they knew. And so I'm going to take, for my directors, maybe going back to, I mean, literally first day where you're the guy behind the camera and they're like, okay, go. What was something that you wish you knew then that you do know now? Like, what would you say back to that guy that you now, having made several things? And I'm gonna stick specifically with the non-actor directors. So Kyle, I'll start with you, and then Craig, if you wanna follow up.
Kyle.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad internet connection.
It's okay.
Craig, sorry.
It's okay. Did you hear the question though?
I did. So
Okay.
my screen popped up. It said internet is unstable, right? So,
as is the world.
You know, for me, I think the thing I would want to know the clearest, or I wish I could go back and know, and I think it connects to even what we started talking about with blocking and how to do this, is that I think I had this false notion that there's a perfection to how something is made, right? So there's you storyboard it, you have your shots, you know exactly where things are gonna go, and your job is to show up and not be, you know, not be aggressive about that, but to say, okay, these are the shots and this is where we're going. And I remember on the first film, we had set up a long tracking shot, you know, a night scene, and it was maybe day 3 of shooting. And I was working with this actor, Brian Garrity, who I love, and he was so like, okay, we laid out the tracks, and then I brought him in for rehearsal. And I was like, well, you're gonna be walking here and doing this. And he was like, well, why would I walk there? And I didn't have an answer. My answer would only have been, well, because it's gonna look nice. And that's nothing I ever really want to say to an actor, especially on what was like a small intimate drama. And we scrapped everything, and it turned out to be one of the better scenes in the movie, and he just stayed put. And so for me, it was just about, you have a plan, you have a backup plan, and be ready to throw all of those away in favor of what the actor is feeling naturally or what's happening naturally in the space. So this sort of like the notion of this auteur sort of point of view of like, oh, everything is perfectly planned and manicured. You know, I think really the best stuff comes when you prepare for that, and then you be the first one to throw all of that away for something more organic and real.
I like that one too. Craig, what about you? What would you go back and tell yourself?
I would tell myself for sure, and I think this applies to a lot of directors who are just starting out, you don't need to say as much to actors as you think you need to. I think there is a tendency, out of nerves, out of wanting to prove yourself as a first-time director, to give an actor too much, especially out of the gate. As an actor, I was a theater kid. I wanted to be an actor forever. And, you know, that's helped in a couple ways. Writing, one, like writing dialogue, you learn how to write dialogue that people can say, but also that you can only do 1 or 2 things if you're adjusting a performance, one thing. So you want to make sure that you're giving your actor, if you're going to give them any direction at all. And for example, I usually do not give any direction at all on the first take. You know, I've met with the actor, we've talked about the character, that first take is theirs. And so, because I want to see what they do. They could bring something completely new to the character, or to how that character might play the scene that I would never have thought of. And I don't want to interfere with that for the first take, or maybe even the second take, or maybe any takes. I'll do many, many takes. I won't say a word to the actors because they got it. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if I am going to give an adjustment, I want it to be simple, direct, actionable, plainly stated, so that it's clear for the actor. So because an actor is putting themselves out there, and they can't hold, you know, a monologue and a paragraph of blah 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 from the director. That's just not, you know. The actors can speak to this in more detail probably, but it's easy to short circuit as an actor if you have too much. So you don't need to say as much as you think you need to.
I agree, and because I always think that I always tell every director, give me 3 takes. I'm going to get up to speed, because the first, I'm just trying to get the landscape. You know, it's a lot we're trying to, you know, facilitate as well, and it's like you got to let me work through it as well. It's part of the process. Like by the third, I'm good. I know exactly what we're doing. I'm getting the blocking. The lines are coming out fine now. You know, but you know, I don't need scripty coming up to me right after the first take. It's like, okay, I know I messed up. I got it. Let me look at I got my sides in my back pocket. I want to get it. I want to be excellent with this as well. But you got to give me a moment, you know. And a lot of times, I think the early directors are really trying to get it on the first take or the second. You like, let the actor be involved in the process and give them a little moment, you know. Now, if it takes me 5 takes to give you anything, you know, I think it's like, get me out of there. I'm totally kidding.
In reference to that director, let me just say, I was nervous just being in the room with the Zoom. So I can only imagine what it's like on set, and you're like staring down with these people you admire. So I get it. I get that director's being nervous. Sarah, I'm going to bring it to you on this one, because you had a very interesting first film, because I don't think a lot of people jump in with Adam Sandler and you know, like that is not a typical first film, especially for a child actor. But I have a feeling that it probably, I don't know, did it take the pressure off? Because some of these folks are actors on this, they might get the call. They might be in a similar situation where they're going to be jumping right into a very big production. What advice do you have to them jumping into it literally as like maybe their first or second role?
Well, I mean, this is a bit of a difficult question to answer, because I was a child, and I think children, like, I had that insane confidence of a 15-year-old who's just like, cool, great, wow, like, which I feel like I have much less of that now, but I guess I would just say, especially like a huge movie really can have anyone they want. And if you're there because they want you. And I think that you can really kind of take that and try to internalize it, and just know that they looked for everyone, you know, and they chose you. And also, it's also like, you do realize that success does not equal like confidence. Like really, really successful actors, that doesn't. They're not like superheroes. That they're insecure too. That, you know, and I think that was like a huge lesson for me jumping into that.
I think a lot of people are feeling better knowing that, because we all look at them like superheroes. I'm going to ask just a couple more, and then we are going to turn it over to audience questions. So if you have questions for the Q&A, please place them in there. I'm going to try my best to get as many as possible. So again, take time and answer questions. Laura, I want to talk about Pen 15, because this one I thought was interesting. And yes, we could just talk about the show and how brilliant it is, how brilliant you are in it, and just how incredible it is as a piece of art. But this is what's interesting. That does not seem like a piece that is very easy to pitch, because if somebody like just told me what it is, I don't know if I would understand the brilliance of what it would be at the end. And I think with a lot of shorts directors, a lot of like indie stuff, some of it's really avant-garde. Like there is not as much maybe playbook on what they're trying to do. So what advice would you have for folks trying to pitch something that's outside the box? Like, how was maybe Pen 15 presented to you? Or is it just the script? I mean, I don't know. How do you grasp something that's maybe less tangible and communicate that to folks?
I have no idea how they pitched it. When people say, what's that show you're on? And my daughter will say, just say penis, Mom. And I'm like, it's Pen 15. She's like, I don't know how they pitched it, because when I tell people, well, it's about these two girls and they're 13, they're in 8th grade, but they're played by the older version actual writers who maybe are 30, I don't know. And they look at me like, I'm like, you know what? You just have to watch it. I can't explain it. You just have to see it, and then you'll get it. And you know, they'll call me, they go, okay, I get it. I get it now, I get it. As an actor, Coleman said something about this. It's the story. It's just the story. Like, I respond to a story. So my agent said, there's this script. They want you to look at this part, and I just read the script. I want to see the story, and what. Oh, not another mom again. You know, like, really? But this mom was very different and very inappropriate. And I was like, yeah, with no apologies, you know, like, yeah.
I love that. No, she is a different mom. Oh, by the way, again, if you guys have not seen Pen 15, it is absolutely brilliant. Please take the time to do it. I'm gonna come back to our casting directors, and this one I think is important for everyone, but how do I put this? What is the common mistake that if you wish that you could sit down, every actor that's in that like hallway getting ready for the cattle call, what is that thing that if like you could tattoo it on the door, you would say, please don't do this when you come inside the room? Because let's just be honest, like sometimes folks have to do like 2 pilot seasons before they get some of this information. So Deanna, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so just one thing, huh?
Or you can do a bunch. I don't care, girl. Like, give me the laundry list.
The one thing that jumps to the top of my head is probably to just resist as much as you can comparing yourself to the person sitting next to you and talking yourself out of a role, or saying, I'm not right for this. This guy's so much older than me. This guy's a different race than me. This girl looks totally different than me. I'm never going to get this role. And instead of, you know, connecting to the material and showing us in the room how you connect to that role, even if it's in one sentence of the sides, you have your mind in another place. And I think that that's never good, because actors are in rooms for all different reasons, and it's not necessarily because they're up for the same role or anything like that. And I just think it takes away from, you know, your ability to show us who you are in the room. So, I mean, I get a lot of calls about that from agents. You know, an actor will leave and an agent will call and be like, she was very upset because there were, you know, other people in the room that, you know, she just didn't think she was right for this to begin with. And then, you know, all that. And I'm just like, okay, that was a different show and a different role. So I think it's just really important to try and focus as much as possible.
Yeah, I would say going off of that, like if somebody called you into the room, go. Like, obviously there's situations where like you don't need to be auditioning anymore, but like initially I would say go, because if you don't feel like you're right, like I try and bring in comedians all the time, and the amount of times they pass on auditions and I'm like, no, dude, like this is what they actually want, like, or like I need to see you for this so that I have the tape for the 30 other times you pass and I could just send it on. Like, it is like, take those opportunities, and I think don't be fully committed to the thing that you practiced. I think be open to changing something in the room, because I also think I've worked with a bunch of different directors that have a very specific vision and it is never on the page. And so an actor will come in being like, I have this thing prepared and it feels very straightforward. And I try and tweak it because I know exactly the note the director needs for this person to land it, even if it's a one-line role. And they can't do it because they've been so set on this one vision that they practiced. And if they just were a bit more, I think it is like not psyching yourself out, so that when you walk in the room, you are open to change and open to feedback and stuff. I think that's like the hardest thing.
I love that. I'm gonna do this this first question from the chat because I think it's interesting, and I'm gonna pose this one to Kyle and Craig, because this is more, I think, of like, yeah, this is more up yours, but this is funny. If you had two candidates for a project and they're both amazing and you're comfortable with both, but one is a brilliant troublemaker and the other one is a diligent but more modest actor, and it's a coin flip, which do you choose?
Kyle,
It's a total coin flip. Like if
I mean, like literally, like they're both brilliant, but you're choosing between someone where like he's may give you brilliance, but you're gonna have to work for it, or this person is gonna be a little bit more modest.
the nicer, the better person, right? Because it's collaboration, and so in turn, frankly, I would maybe even say that even if it weren't an exact coin flip, because you're on set, you need to be. I've worked with actors, for example, who will change the blocking explicitly so they can do a 2-camera setup to get off set faster, right? So they're not even just their own work, they're trying to affect the other people in the scene's work and the aesthetics of the scene and the show simply because they don't want to be there. So, for me, I'm always going to go to the collaborator, the enthusiasm. That's going to serve you better in the long run.
yeah, I feel that it's actually almost never a coin flip. There's always something that you just eventually commit to. It could be an excruciating decision, but there's always something that you latch onto. I did a high school movie called Alex Strangelove for Netflix, and it's a high school boy is sort of torn between his girlfriend and a boy he meets at the party, and we were casting the boy who is a love interest, sort of a high school rom-com vibes. And it was between two actors, both sort of relatively unknown. I loved both. They both brought something totally different. And I was just going back and forth. But I realized that when we brought the candidates together with our lead actor, there was one that just had a little more chemistry than the other with the lead. And I'm like, okay, to tell this story, we have to go with who has the most chemistry, because it's about a tug of war between two love interests. And I even pulled the lead actor aside who had already cast and said, who are you having more chemistry with, this person or that person? He said, the person who we cast. And so that's what tipped it over to me, because, this is critical for me to say, I was leaning towards the other person. So it was important to talk to my lead actor and to confirm that the chemistry that I did see there, the actor was also experiencing.
Oh, that's so good. That's a good note on that one. Like, which one do you like better? I'm just kidding. I'm going to take this one to the actors, because so much of acting I feel is rejection. Sorry, casting directors. But it is a lot of no's before you get to the yes. So I'm just curious, what was the no that you look back on and you're like, okay, this was a blessing in disguise. I didn't realize it at the time. I really wanted it, but looking back on it, somebody telling me no for this role or this opportunity or not getting cast in this actually turned out to be a good thing. I'm gonna start with you, Coleman, but then I'm gonna go around.
Well, immediately, it's funny. I thought about when I got offered in the same week, The Get Down on Netflix and Fear the Walking Dead. I got offered that on the same day, and I was really trying to make it work, because I knew one was a commitment of, it was more recurrent. It was recurring on The Get Down, and then there was a series regular on Fear the Walking Dead. But I really loved The Get Down and what they were trying to do, and they just couldn't make it work. We tried to make it work, and I don't know. They were really strong-arming me for something that was not really. I didn't know what it would become, you know what I mean? And I decided at that moment, because I live in LA now, but I was such a New York actor, and I was like, everything was like New York, and this is about New York, and then I decided, to be honest, I was like, I really had to choose between one or the other. They wouldn't, The Get Down wouldn't allow me to do both. So, but Fear was trying to make it work. And I decided to, at that moment, honestly, to do something I didn't think this genre was something that, I'll be honest, I felt like I was a bit of a theater snob, to be honest. And I was like, I don't really do a lot of television at that time. Now, this was like 6 years ago. I don't think that it was as crafty and as, it started to lean in that direction. But I was like, I'm not sure if it had the storytelling that I felt like that where I felt I was useful, to be very honest. And so until this role came on, and then I thought, let me do something outside of my comfort zone, do something that I think scares me a little bit. And so I chose to do the thing. Normally I would have chose the Get Down, but I decided to choose something that's going to push me in a different direction and challenge my skill set, challenge me as a craftsman. And I'm glad I did. So that no turned into an enormous yes for me. And I've been loving being a part of that show.
Laura?
Yeah, rejection. I don't I have this, you have to be really disciplined. So going back to the casting question, I sit in rooms and I'm like, I'd cast her. And I'm done. Go into the room and then it's like transposition. I'm just like, how can I become this character? And then I leave and I have to kind of like the Edith Piaf, don't regret anything, just walk away and don't look back. It's gone. So that has been how I've survived. So I've had a lot of rejection and I'm trying to think what was one that was worse than the other. They were all horrible. So, but it's like, don't look back. Go in, give it everything you can, and then walk away and don't look, don't look back. Who's the Greek one? Orpheus and Eurydice. You can go back into the underworld and get your true love, but don't look at her until you cross that river and she stumbles and he turns and don't look back. Let's keep going.
All right, Sarah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm thinking of a story, but I'm embarrassingly blanking on this extremely famous director's name. Who directed?
You can leave their name out. It's fine.
Who directed the Scream movies?
Kevin Williams, or no?
No, Wes Craven.
Wes Craven.
Wes Craven. I don't know. It was for Scream 4. And the casting director was like, I'm obsessed with Sarah. She's amazing. And I basically kind of changed a trip around. I changed a flight to meet with Wes Craven to go in for him. Went in for him, did this whole audition for Scream 4. And the feedback was it was essentially she's not hot enough to be in my movies. It was she doesn't have the right look for my movies, all my movies ever. And it was really, I took it really hard. And then I ended up seeing the movie with a friend of mine, and he was he just was I have to say, as far as your career and the trajectory of your career, I think you being in this movie would have made zero sense. You are so much more authentic than these girls, and their inauthenticity is kind of the point. The whole point of this is these are these girls that are just trying to get famous, and I just don't think I think that would have been not a fit for you. And it's sort of it was a sort of transformative moment for me, what the casting directors are talking about of I think when I was younger, I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to be a certain thing that I just wasn't. And it really was a moment where I just was yeah, that's not me, and it doesn't have to be. And I don't have to be in the Scream, like that.
That I like that, because he basically was you're too awesome for this. That's the best note you could possibly get. You're too awesome for this.
That's why I ended up trying to look at it. Yeah.
Yes. So for the casting directors, we have another one from the chat, and it's kind of an interesting one because it's something that we've seen a lot more often, which is casting non-professional actors, and some of them end up becoming professional actors. But I think Andrea Arnold, found God, I can't think of her name, from American Honey, walking on a beach in Texas. The kid that played the lead on White Boy Rick, he was another guy that this director just came across. And so I was just curious if you've gotten that call from a director saying, hey, I really want to get non-professionals to just maybe be themselves. How do you approach casting that?
Leslie.
Well, so I actually get that question almost every project.
Oh, wow.
And I would say that it just depends on the context. And I think it's either way, very, very hard. And I still like kind of don't believe that like Sasha Lane didn't know anybody kind of thing. But I would say that it's like, I would say when you're a short film director and this is one of your first projects, I think that is helpful for a casting director to find the tone. But I think the reality of it, it's really hard. And also those generally take like a year. Those are casting directors going out to, I've gone to the Los Angeles County Fair and walked around to pass out flyers to try and find young girls who had parents who were in prison and had dealt with abuse. And that was the type of real life person they wanted. And that was just like, those people are very hard to get a hold of, and not all of them want to be famous actors. And so I think it's like finding the reality of somebody is a lot different than finding somebody that feels real. And I think that it's a lot easier to find somebody that feels real rather than somebody that like somehow deeply connects to this very specific thing. It's just really hard, but I would say like, if that is truly what you want, give the casting director time. That's not happening in 2 weeks or even a month or even 2 months. Like that is a cold call and open casting like I've done nationwide searches for people and still maybe 20 people have submitted a tape. And it's like, yeah, there's the reality there, but you're ultimately not gonna find the nuance that you're looking for often. Sometimes you are. Like truly, I think Lakeith Stanfield for Short Term 12, which was his student film, is the greatest discovery of all time. But I think that those are few and far between.
Deanna, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this, and meanwhile Coleman's here for Euphoria, who I think does a great job of casting first-time people who my eyes are just like, who is that? Who is that? No credits, no agent. Yeah. My advice for that, for short filmmakers, would be if you're looking for that specifically, taking into what Leslie is saying, that it takes a lot of time for casting directors that are doing TV shows or movies to do those types of searches. And it's possible, and it's very fulfilling. That's what I got into this for. I came up under Mally Finn, the casting director, who would, this woman would, when she cast 8 Mile, would, go to Detroit clubs and just recruit people there, as like a 65-year-old woman to get that new face. But what I will say is there are specific casting directors that specialize in that street search that I think, I collaborate with when I really need that like specific look. Ones that specialize in hitting the streets and doing those things. So I think like be open-minded with your budget when you have a film like that, to think about, you may want to put a little money aside for that kind of a specific search, which I use a lot. I'll collaborate with people that do that when I need something really specific. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to ignore you, Coleman. You have too many hats though. Like I would literally talk to you on every single function on here, and I want to like spread it around. But Euphoria, like, let's talk about that one, because that is absolutely what this question really kind of goes to. And you guys did so many discoveries on that show.
You know what's interesting about that? I love working with these actors that Sam Levinson discovered. But also I think that they had, at the heart of it, they had maybe they had the drive, the curiosity, and I think maybe it's the thing that I know that as an actor, when I first started out 30 years ago, that I knew that the stuff that I didn't know was good, actually. That I didn't, I was a bit raw, and I knew, and you're in the hands of someone like Sam Levinson and his crew and his AD team and everything, who will take care of you, who will make sure they can help craft that as well. And again, that does take, like you're saying, it takes time and it takes patience. But I think he gathered this group of actors that are so game and they're so open. I don't even know if they know how talented they are. We did a table read just before we got shut down, and they're just so open. And I think maybe that's the thing that I know that I respond to, and what I try to always have as an actor is this openness to like, be willing, you know, actors who are willing to not be right, willing to fail, willing to be messy, willing to, you know, be adjusted. You know, there's that raw talent that they have, but they're also really, they're learning and they're open. And I think that's just a beautiful bit about the show.
I was gonna back Leslie up on the question really fast. Quick little anecdote, because I went through a thing where I was gonna cast, well, I've worked with a lot of teen actors, and I was casting a thing, it got made, but not with me or the cast I did. And I did the thing where I was like, we're gonna find someone sitting in a classroom somewhere who's right for this. And we did a year-long search. And I had all the tapes go into the same bin. So I didn't know who was a discovery, who wasn't, who was other, if they were just shooting it in their classroom. But I watched everything blindly. And I would say 98% of the time, if I pinned someone, they were someone with an agent and with experience. And it makes me also think on Game of Thrones too, like the kids on that. They used to do these big searches for the kids early on. They found out every kid came from the same 2 acting schools. So then they just started in those acting schools. So trust experience, training, profession, ambition, and drive. You know, don't underestimate the quality of those things too. Because I love actors, and I love actors who train to be actors too. And there's a lot of
I do too. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think I think people are trying to find the prodigy and like just this special little formula, when in actuality, you definitely can have someone that can deliver exactly what you're looking for. And that goes, I guess, back to what we said earlier about being humble. We only have a couple of minutes left, but in this moment especially, we're all, I think, readjusting how we look at cinema and how it speaks to current events. And just, you know, again, with everything going on, I just want to go around the horn to everyone really quickly. What has happened? And, you know, this is people questioning the types of roles that are on TV and also the types of stories that we're telling. What are you going to do going forward after we've had this moment and you're going to employ that you probably already did employ a lot of things, but maybe something new that you're going to try to employ in your process to achieve more equality, to have more faces both in front of and behind the camera, to make sets and make screens look more like the world that we live. So I'm going to, again, go around the horn, and sorry, I'm going to start with you, Deanna, because you're in the casting and it's easier.
I would say a lot of that comes at the executive level. So I think it's really important to employ, because I provide the talent, the director and the producer respond to the talent, but sometimes we hit obstacles with, you know, executives. I think the more you can put various, you know, cultures and people at the executive level who can make those decisions, the better. But as far as my specific process, I think the industry was moving, I don't know, Leslie, if you agree, but in a very diverse direction anyway. Like we were always kind of colorblind casting and trying to, you know, expand what we're thinking about for a certain role and break the mold with that stuff. And I just think that it should be probably less of a question when you get a script and you go, okay, could this person be diverse? Could this, like, just taking that question away, just assuming that it could be anybody. I think that that's really important. Yeah, Leslie, I don't know if you have anything to add with that.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the directors and the writers and the producers, and then execs, depending on the context of the situation, because I think that a lot of casting strives to be colorblind and inclusive, but I think that really the writing needs to say the race or the ethnicity or the cultural background, because when you put out a breakdown for a character and you say, I want all these different races, you'll ultimately see a lot of people, but statistically you'll be seeing more white people, and you'll then submit them to the producers and directors. And even if what you send them is culturally representative, like, you run the risk that they're just going to end up picking all the white people anyway. And so I think that, like, we need help and we need the writing to really give voice to representation so that we can more sure-footedly present it. Because I think, yes, I think we strive always to do that, but the ultimate decision makers need to make those decisions better.
I will add that too, because I spoke to a few actors on a previous panel, and they talked about, colorblind casting has a thing, but really it's, look at a character like Randall on This Is Us. That was a character that was written for an African-American man, and it was authentic. And to me, that is way more valuable, because now this portrayal of both Black love between him and his wife, adoption, authentically is being portrayed on screen. Whereas sometimes I think with colorblind casting, they end up with a white character that just happens to be portrayed by a person of color. And that adds nothing, I think, to the actual landscape. It's literally just, in that point, it's like decoration. And I don't think it really adds anything to the conversation or to the work.
It makes the writing better for all characters.
Yeah. And actually we're running a little bit late. So I'm actually gonna do one last question to you guys, and I'll make it really, really quickly. That way we can actually get out of here on time. What are you watching in your time at home? What are you enjoying? Because we all want to have a happy moment. So what are you looking forward to? Sarah, I'll start with you.
Okay. I'm almost done with When They See Us, which is excellent. Very, very, very good.
Hard to see, but very good.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I'm watching The Sopranos for the first time.
Oh,
Yeah, never watched it. So yeah, that's it.
Those are good. Craig, what about you? What are you watching?
well, yesterday I watched the 13th Ava DuVernay's documentary on Netflix, and my God, we are living in what would be the final half hour of that incredible history lesson, where we are and why we got there. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we're starting season 2 of The Crown. So I'm very diverse in what I want.
I'm an Anglophile. I'm living for both of those choices, but I love The Crown so much. Kyle, what about you?
I'm finally getting through Rami, which I'm enjoying a lot, and trying to, I think it does a good job of educating you on something I understood very little of culturally. I'm also weirdly spent this time going back watching a lot of old schlock LGBT movies from like the 70s, like really like bad, like cost no money. You have to get it on a disc from DVD, just like strange things that were shot in West Hollywood without scripts. And like, there's just there's a wealth of, the 70s was like the best filmmaking. So I've been kind of going through the 70s. I've been going back through even before that. I went through a whole Ken Russell kick again, and just trying to remind myself what filmmaking was like when people sort of stood back, and studios kind of stood back a little bit.
Love that. Coleman, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you doing?
Well, I'm missing travel right now. I love to travel and be on a plane going anywhere. So I've been buying a lot of cookbooks, and I've been actually watching lately I've been watching this docuseries on Acorn TV called Lost Kingdoms of Africa. There's Dr. Gus Casely Hayford, who now runs the V&A Museum in a historical part of it. I think he runs the V&A in London. But it's a really cool series. And tonight, I believe, is Zimbabwe. Yesterday I did Sudan. And so every night I'm watching something, then I'm cooking something. Last night I made a Venetian panzanella salad. Pretty cool. So, I'm bringing the, travel into my home. That's what I'm doing.
I love that. Laura?
Makes me very hungry. What I say? I had to think, what have I been watching? Because time is so strange right now. I watched this show called Fauda. It's Israeli. And I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. I think there's 2 seasons, and it's not what I thought I would get addicted to. I think these actors are famous. I've never seen them before. It's incredible. And it's, this kind of underground Palestinian unit, not underground, but I don't even it's like a team. And you see the interactions between the Israeli and Palestinian. And then I watched Hollywood, because I have a friend on that. And I think that's very interesting for right now. you know, and everything you're talking about. Well, what if it's not a white woman who jumped off the, you know, what if we change the name, and what if we this, and what if we that? And I thought that was very interesting, you know, turn everything around. And there were little moments where the writer's sitting there with the producer and they're like, all right, you need to change this. And as a writer, it's like, no, I'm not changing anything. I know that feeling, but you have to be open to change. And then my love is Fellini and John Cassavetes and Bergman. And so I watched a Fellini film called The Clowns. I highly recommend it. It's almost a documentary, and it's I'm just watching everything.
And I like what you're watching though. I'm Fellini. I'm down. I love it. Leslie, what are you watching?
I just finished Insecure, which was an amazing season, and really
It was a punch in the gut, that last episode.
Oh, it was. And it's also like, I mean, every season is so well lit and well shot, but this season especially, I feel like you really were like captured into each scene based off of the shooting. It was beautiful. And then I've made it to season 7 of The West Wing, which is of its time.
Yeah.
And 22, what network TV though of yesteryear is 22 episodes a season. So it's taken me the entire lockdown to
Wow.
get to season 7.
Revisiting The West Wing now is quite interesting because that was like thought to be this liberal bastion, and you look back on it, you're now like, this is problematic.
Oh, it's insanely problematic. But also, I would be happy to have Jimmy Smits or Alan Alda be my president. So, you know, I can get behind that.
Especially right now.
Yeah. For sure.
Deanna.
Oh, I'm spending the downtime watching as much content as possible. There's so much content. I'm trying to watch, you know, a lot of global shows, more global shows, so I can familiarize myself with those, you know, the British shows and everything else. So I've been watching, I watched the full season of The Dairy Girls, which I thought was really unique and funny. And I could say my favorites were that, and Unorthodox on Netflix is an excellent show, really unique world with another no-name actors, amazing, really great. Dead to Me season 2, I think is some of the great television and normal people I've watched. I'm just trying to educate myself as much as possible with these actors that I don't know, but those were my favorites.
Oh, those are all great. I want to thank you guys so much. We could spend another hour talking about Insecure, but we all have to go. And all of these shows for that matter, but especially Insecure because Issa, I'm like mad. Anyway, thank you all. I want to thank the ShortFest for doing this, Clay, everyone, and I especially want to thank all of you for joining us today. Clay, do you have anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you all so much. This was such a delight and such a great way to wake up on a Tuesday morning. So
Down for that.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good.
Ciao.
Bye.